Hello and welcome back to another edition of Watching Washington. I'm Marissa Delgado.
And I'm Nolan O'Connell. It is Friday, December 1st, and here are our top stories for this week. Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States, has passed away at the age of 93. O'Connor served as an Associate Justice on the Supreme Court from 1981 to 2006, nominated by President Ronald Reagan. Before she began her tenure on the court, she was a judge and an elected official in Arizona, serving as the first female majority leader of a state Senate, the Republican leader in the Arizona Senate, and she leaves behind a legacy of groundbreaking achievements and dedication to public service.
Former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger has died. According to a statement from his firm, he died Wednesday at his home in Connecticut. A cause was not released. He was 100 years old.
Kissinger became a naturalized U.S. citizen in 1943 after his parents left Nazi Germany in 1938. He served as a national security advisor and Secretary of State under Presidents Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford. He received a Nobel Peace Prize for helping to arrange the end of a U.S. military involvement in the Vietnam War. He was also a pivotal figure in easing tensions with the Soviet Union. However, his legacy isn't without criticism. He was heavily criticized over the bombings of Cambodia during the Vietnam War, as well as supporting multiple coups in both Argentina and Chile, leading to the destabilization of the region and the deaths of thousands.
According to the Associated Press, just Tuesday, Hunter Biden offered to testify publicly in response to a subpoena from the Republican Party, but the Republicans are not keen on a public testimony. The president's son was not happy with the subpoena's request for a closed-door testimony, claiming that it can be easily manipulated. But the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Representative James Comer, stands firm with the decision, claiming that Republicans expect full cooperation with their original demand for a deposition. The subpoenas in early November to Hunter Biden tested the reach of congressional oversight powers, but as of right now, Republicans have still failed to uncover any evidence directly proving President Biden of any wrongdoing. Comer stated on Tuesday that in the future, Hunter Biden could testify publicly, but for right now, he expects him to follow through with the deposition on December 13th, as outlined in the subpoena.
The Koch network has decided to endorse the Nikki Haley campaign as she fights for the Republican nomination. Haley started gaining support after the first Republican debate, and she has only continued to rise in the polls since. She is starting to emerge as the second Republican option to former President Donald Trump. The Koch network's commitment, the Americans for Prosperity Action, has already started to put ads out against Trump and Biden while painting Haley as the best option. The 2022 midterm elections, they knocked on millions of doors and made millions of calls in support of their endorsed candidates, and they plan to do the same for Haley. All of the remaining Republican candidates have spoken out against Haley's endorsement. However, no matter what they say, it doesn't change the fact that their path to victory has gotten much tougher.
According to NPR News, police have arrested a suspect, Jason J. Eden, involved in the shooting of 3 young men of Palestinian descent. Since then, the suspect has pled not guilty to three accounts of attempted murder. The 3 men were attending a Thanksgiving holiday gathering in Burlington, Vermont on Saturday evening. AP News states that the victims were speaking a mix of English and Arabic and wearing the black and white Palestinian keffiyeh scarves. The question of whether this was a hate crime is still being investigated.
The President and the First Lady were horrified to learn about the 3 college students of Palestinian descent, 2 of whom are American citizens who were shot Saturday in Burlington, Vermont. The President continues to receive updates from his team about the ongoing investigation. These students were taking part in a uniquely American tradition, gathering with family and loved ones to celebrate Thanksgiving. They should be back in school with their classmates, not in a hospital room. The President, First Lady, and everyone here at the White House join Americans across the country in praying for their full recovery, and we send our deepest condolences to their families and the broader Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim American communities. While we are waiting for more facts, we know this: there is absolutely no place for violence or hate in America.
Right now, 2 of the men were in stable condition and others suffered much more serious injuries, according to Burlington Police Chief John Murad.
Rosalynn Carter, the former First Lady of the United States and advocate for mental health and women's rights, passed away earlier this week at the age of 96 at her home in Plains, Georgia. Rosalynn Carter served as the First Lady from 1977 to 1981 during the presidency of her husband, Jimmy Carter, and also served as a dedicated activist and an accomplished writer. After leaving the White House, she continued to advocate for mental health and also contributed to the expansion of the nonprofit housing organization Habitat for Humanity. She also founded the Institute for Caregivers, an organization that provides much-needed support for those caring for loved ones. In recognition of their service to the people of the United States, she and her husband were awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1999.
The Supreme Court heard a case on Wednesday that looked at the authority of regulatory agencies and the power of the president. The case involves the reach of the Securities and Exchange Commission, specifically the Commission and House enforcement proceedings that consist of administrative courts staffed with agency employees. The court is reviewing the tenure of these judges who can only be removed for cause and not on a whim of the president. If the court holds that the SEC's method of adjudicating certain fraud claims violates the constitutions, it could impact other agencies. This is one of several cases this term where the High Court is expected to take a hard look at the structure of the government.
In possibly our final update on one of our most noteworthy freshman congressmen, George Santos has been expelled from the House of Representatives after a scathing ethics committee report released cast little doubt in the third vote, which led to the removal of office. Following this ethics report detailing Congressman Santos' use of stolen campaign funds for his own personal gain, including where the funds were ultimately spent. This led to a push from Democratic members of Congress who pushed for a vote of expulsion for the third time on Tuesday. This resolution from the Democratic Party was labeled by Santos as bullying and a complete misuse of congressional proceedings, who also states that this would set a dire precedent going forward. In his final days, Santos also notably criticized his contemporaries for fraudulent behavior in Congress, swaying his few remaining allies to the favor of his expulsion, ending his truly bizarre congressional career.
Last Friday, a temporary truce went into effect regarding the ongoing war between Israel and the Hamas in Gaza. This ceasefire led to the eventual release of many Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners. Today, fighting is set to resume and the hostage release is set back to pause, according to CNN. Hamas allegedly did not release all of the hostages that was agreed upon, but Hamas claims that that is all that they have. All Israeli women and children were supposed to be released, and Israel does not believe Hamas delivered on that. So far, 105 hostages have been released by Hamas and have returned to Israel. There is hope that the ceasefire treaty could start again if Hamas agreed to release more hostages, but at this point we are taking it one day at a time, and for now the truce is inactive.
Up next, once again, Meta is in another lawsuit. Find out why this time.
Plus, have you noticed that gas prices have dropped recently? More about that coming up. More Watching Washington next.
The Center for C-SPAN, which is this organization, the CCSC, what we do is we facilitate like a bunch of organizations, different programs for Brian Lamb, which is the founder of C-SPAN. Anyone can be part of CCSC, whether it be through our various internships, our competitions, just to be involved, even like our student community meetings that we have every week. Anyone can go, you don't have to be communications or poli-sci. You just meet so many people, the connections you make is kind of crazy, the range that CCSC has. So yeah, it's just provided me so many opportunities to like kind of achieve the goals I have personally and forward to like whatever career paths I choose.
At Purdue University, we're not just students, we're future leaders. Join Air Force ROTC to embark on a journey of honor, excellence, and service. Learn, lead, and soar to new heights. It's not just a commitment, it's a calling. Purdue Air Force ROTC, where dreams take flight. Are you ready to rise? I got a switch in my head. I go from living to dead. You got me seeing all red. Now I'm becoming.
Football. It's the best time of the year. You know what else is great? the world's largest and fastest mascot. You can't have Purdue football without the trains. Look for the Reamer Club outside Stewart Center, 12 to 5 p.m. on Fridays before home football games, for your chance to ride the Boilermaker Special for free. See you then!
Are you looking for a new hobby?
Or do you want to have a fun evening with your friends?
Then come climb to new heights at the Co-Rec Climbing Wall.
Hi there, my name is Vikram Jaithlak and I'm the founder and president of the Purdue chapter of the University Blood Initiative. Over the past 2 years, we've been able to collect over 300 pints of blood to be donated to local hospitals, and you can be the next one to help out.
I donate my blood at the University Blood Initiative.
Hi, I just donated blood through the University Blood Initiative.
Hi, I just donated blood through the University Blood Initiative at Purdue.
Right, I donated my blood through the University Blood Initiative at Purdue.
And I donated my blood at University Blood Initiative at Purdue.
This week, New York City Mayor Eric Adams announced on Tuesday that the city has helped thousands of migrants fill out legal applications. The city's asylum application help center opened earlier this summer. Since then, city figures show that it has assisted filling out more than 7,200 asylum applications and roughly 2,900 work authorization applications. It has also helped process 2,900 temporary protected status applications. Adams says 2 additional satellite locations will open up to help migrants fill out those legal papers. Adams also says the city is seeing thousands of migrant arrivals per week, and he continues to call for more federal funding. Also in migrant news, another big U.S. city had an influx of migrants, Chicago. Chicago is working towards creating a space that will keep migrants safe and warm this winter. Here is what they've been working on.
A flurry of activity took place this morning as gravel-filled trucks filled this empty lot at 38th Street and California. This as the city moves forward with its preparations to erect a winterized base camp that could temporarily house up to 2,000 migrants.
It's not the ideal, but it's better than outside today in the cold.
Construction, which was believed would start today, has been delayed by environmental concerns due to the presence of heavy metals in the soil. The mayor's office saying mitigation strategies are ongoing and anticipated for completion by the end of this week, weather permitting. But even as that goes on, the state today announced the opening of a second, much smaller shelter. This one located at the site of a former CVS store at 26th Street and Pulaski in Little Village. Servicing both will be New Life Centers of Chicagoland, whose aim is to help arriving migrants to get them out of the shelter system as soon as possible.
We start to assess, okay, on the roadmap to stable housing, on the roadmap to TPS and jobs and being able to get them settled, really building roots here in Chicago.
Back in Brighton Park, however, opposition to the impending base camp continues to grow, especially in light of the newly disclosed, but certainly not new, environmental concerns regarding this lot. Longtime 12th Ward sources telling ABC7 this school at 38th Street in St. Louis was only built here after it was determined in 2008 that cleaning up the still empty lot was too expensive to make it worth it.
The city, knowing that it's polluted, why would you put these people in that type of harm's way?
As temperatures drop in New York City and Chicago, we will keep an eye on how these major cities will help these migrants find a new home.
On Wednesday, the House Republicans announced the launch of a one-stop-shop website for all things related to the impeachment inquiry against President Biden. Their reason being so that the American people can, quote, see the clear corruption that Joe Biden and his family have committed.
Have worked tirelessly on behalf of the American people for months to deliver transparency following the money and the facts to uncover what I believe will prove to be one of the largest political corruption scandals of our lifetime and potentially in our nation's history. This impeachment inquiry, led by the chairman here today, Jamie Comer, Jim Jordan, and Jason Smith, continues to provide the American people the answers they both demand and deserve.
The website includes summaries of their findings dating back to when President Biden was vice president during the Obama administration all the way to the present time, where they even included the recent news regarding the federal criminal investigation against President Biden's son, Hunter Biden. As a result, House Republicans encourage Americans to visit their website to get all the latest updates on President Biden's impeachment inquiry.
Tech giant Meta is involved in a lawsuit again. Newly unsealed court documents allege Meta collected data from children's Instagram accounts. Attorneys from 33 states accused Meta of receiving more than 1 million reports of under 13 users on Instagram from 2019 to 2023. They say Meta knowingly refused to shut down a majority of these accounts. The lawsuit alleges Meta collected the children's personal information without their parents' consent. According to the complaint, the company violated several state-based consumer protection statutes, as well as the Children's Online Privacy Protection Rule.
The North American wolverine, an icon of the western United States, will receive long-anticipated federal protections. That's because it's now been listed as threatened under the Endangered Species Act. According to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Wednesday, while the wolverine habitat is vast and still relatively healthy in most of Alaska and Canada, climate change is driving the agency's decision to protect the increasingly rare animal in the lower 48. Scientists warn that warming temperatures are rapidly diminishing the mountain snowpack that the species rely on for food, reproduction, and ultimate survival. A rare trio of wolverines were sighted in California's Sierra Nevada mountains last summer, one in Yosemite National Park and 2 in the Inyo National Forest. Wolverine fans everywhere can only hope for the efforts of the Fish and Wildlife Department are fruitful.
Finland will close the last operating checkpoint on its Russian border on Thursday, entirely shutting off the NATO country's eastern border with Russia for 2 weeks. Finnish Prime Minister Petteri Orpo said in the release that, quote, Russia is enabling the instrumentalization of people and guiding them to the Finnish border in harsh winter conditions. Finland is determined to put an end to this phenomena. The last checkpoint will shut at midnight on November 30th, closing the eastern border until December 13th. Finland's Ministry of Internal Affairs said in a press release on Tuesday. It comes amid an increasing effort by the Helsinki to restrict crossings from Russia, a push that intensified following the invasion of Ukraine last year and Finland's ascension to NATO earlier this year. Finland shares an 830-mile-long border with Russia. The crossing was one of the few entry points for Russians after many Western countries shut their airspace and borders to Russian planes in response to the Ukraine invasion. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Grushko said on Tuesday that Finland's decision to close all border checkpoints with Russia will harm Finnish citizens, also calling it irrational.
As we head into the holiday season, there is some positive news for vehicle owners across the country. Gasoline prices have dropped for 61 consecutive days across the U.S. since September, according to the American Automobile Association. The national average price was $3.25 a gallon on Tuesday, which is nearly 26 cents down from a month ago. With inflation rising prices for other necessities, this drop in prices is a positive end to the year with the long winter ahead of us. And according to experts, these price drops look to continue to the end of 2023, meaning less money to spend on gas and more money to spend on gifts for our loved ones and getting ready for 2024.
On Wednesday, November 29th, JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon issued a warning to Wall Street that inflation could rise further and recession is not off the table. Dimon stressed that this may be one of the most dangerous times the world has seen in decades. due to the wars in Ukraine and conflicts between Israel and Gaza, both issues leaving an impact on energy, food, supply, trade, and geopolitical relationships. Nonetheless, he did acknowledge the resilience of the U.S. labor market, but expressed concern that inflation is taking a toll on individuals. According to Demon, it could even lead to nuclear blackmail.
Our in-studio guest this week is the founder of C-SPAN and the namesake of our School of Communication here at Purdue.
Brian Lamb joins us just ahead on Watching Washington.
The program allows students to finish their bachelor's degree and also get an online master's degree that overlap during their last year at Purdue.
Students can more quickly work towards a graduate degree while concurrently starting their professional careers.
The online program allows them to kind of go at their own pace, and so they're not having to abide by the academic calendar.
And our goal is that this would make you even more compelling for your next opportunity in the workforce.
Imagine a world where Olympics and Paralympics are unified as one, and where all athletes at all levels have equal opportunities to play and perform at their full potential.
Athletics has been such an influential and transformative aspect of my life. So to me, RISE is about ensuring that every person that has the desire to participate in sport has the opportunity to do so.
This organization is about recognition. We believe in recognizing excellence where it is found, especially in Paralympic sports.
RISE is about driving change in our community and beyond. We hope that through our events and initiatives, we can galvanize people for our cause and inspire them to create an ever-growing network to help achieve our mission.
It's about connecting people of various backgrounds and who truly care about creating meaningful change together.
We develop projects and hold events to bring people together at the interface of inclusivity, sports, and engineering.
Our goal is to promote the equality of all sports and to improve sports performance and accessibility.
Join us so that you can have a major contribution in creating meaningful change.
We are energetic, we are motivating, and we are unique.
I don't think you can beat Quidditch.
Move up, hammer down!
3, 2, 1.
Bringing you your campus forecast.
I'm Julia Prickett.
I'm Veda Kirsch. I'm Lily Tordill.
We are Fast Track Weather.
Being a part of a Greek fraternity, I have found a lot of enjoyment in being able to go around the house, find a group of guys that I can talk to, whether that is somebody I'm close with or somebody I'm not even close with, and also being around the other Greek houses and being able to communicate with them.
Yeah, if you're thinking about rushing, I encourage you to do it. It's always a good experience. I grew a lot through pledship, became really close with a lot of guys. You know, I don't regret it at all. You know, and anyone I talk to usually, I always encourage them to do it.
It's an easy way to find community with people. Like from my own personal experience, it's a lot easier to have fun in college when you automatically already have a community that you can go have fun with.
Welcome back. We are currently in the studio to discuss the modern media polarization with a very special guest.
Let's turn it over to John and Sophia, who are standing by with Mr. Lamb.
Thank you. That's right. We have Brian Lamb here today to discuss modern media polarization. Brian Lamb, the first thing we want to ask you is about your journey towards starting C-SPAN. What was your motivation to pursue a career in the media industry and begin this news network?
Well, I started in Lafayette at the local, actually started in high school in a little radio station that we built in the high school that you could only listen to in your car radio about 100 feet from the building. And they had a program called Bronco Highlights, because I went to Jeff High School, and it was 5 minutes 3 times a week. And as students, you could put it together just like you're all doing here. That was the beginning. And then I went to Purdue. And at Purdue, I worked full time on the weekends, about 16 hours every weekend on the local radio station. It wasn't the Purdue station, it was a commercial station. And then I went in the Navy after Purdue was finished back in 1964, before your parents even were alive. And I came to Washington eventually after a couple years. And it was when I got to Washington that I started thinking seriously about the news business. And that was where it all started for me. And I never left. So I've been in Washington since 1966. So we're talking about 57, soon to be 58 years.
Gotcha. So with your expansive experience in DC, how do you think that C-SPAN has impacted the media industry?
You know, I'm not sure we've impacted the media industry that much. The one thing I can say about us is that when we started back in 1979, there was nothing ever like it. So people were saying a number of things, including who wants to watch that stuff. But more than anything, it was a shock to the system that you could literally watch somebody make a speech full without interruption. And that started to get people's attention. The CNN news network didn't start until 16, 17 months later. So it was during that period where people were noticing us the most. And then when CNN came along, they got a lot of attention because it was a news network, and news people like news people. And we're not known as a news network, we're known as a public affairs network, big difference. You know, I just never have dwelled on our impact on the system. The biggest impact on the system was the satellite that went up in 1974, because it was so inexpensive to spread television around the United States to cable systems that new networks were created, and that's how we got here.
Do you believe that with C-SPAN and all the interest in government nowadays, do you think that more people are interested in politics or less people are interested in politics?
This is going to sound maybe unusual, but the reason why more people are interested in politics today is because of Donald Trump. And he has, as you all know, has divided the country. I mean, you can't blame him specifically, but because of him, the country is divided in ways that I've never seen before. It's always been divided. And because of that, there's more attention to the news business. But I think it's still the same overall that it's always been. About only 10% of the country cares about the details of news. And frankly, in television, it's old people like me that watch. And especially today, with all that's available to you all, you don't watch the news on television. And so it's been a massive change over the last 50 years.
Well, you mentioned you mentioned Donald Trump. He is a very, you could say, loose cannon. What kind of current trends in Washington are there? I mean, we just saw George Santos get knocked out of office. What are you seeing there?
Oh, I think George Santos was a blip on the radar screen. It's an odd thing that happened. As a matter of fact, if you want to stretch it, you blame all the New York City media for missing it. He was right there in front of them. They didn't pay any attention to it at all. You probably would be a better judge of this than I am, because I've lived this for years and years and years, and you can see how the different media are being used. I'm an old-fashioned guy. I still read a hard copy newspaper every day. I like the internet, and I use it every single day. And I start my day by reading on the internet. And I listen to, C-SPAN's got a radio station. We've got an app so you can listen to it. I'm a guy that listens to radio overnight. You don't know what that's like yet, but someday you'll see yourself waking up more than one time during the night. And then in my case, I listen to the radio. So I'm all over the place. So the best thing about today is that we have choice. We have terrific choice. It's just a matter of being interested. And if you're not interested, then you don't care about any of it.
On the subject of interest, what do you think young college students can do to be more active and understanding of what's going on with the political atmosphere?
Look, I get it. You're busy. There's a lot going on. You're having a good time. You're studying. Your days are full. You're saying to yourself, when do I find the time to pay attention to the news? The best way to do it is just start. Start by carving out, let's just say 15 minutes of your day. And it might be the first thing you do in the daytime or when you wake up. And that is to check the different sites to see what's going on. One of the things that you learn when you do, and I do this all day long, is that most of the news sites cover the same stories. And you have to look for the other stuff. One of the great things that's happened in my lifetime is that if somebody pronounces anything and they've done a study, that study is available to me online to read for myself immediately. That's an amazing thing. When I was your age and in school, you had to, first of all, they didn't have a transcript right away. Secondly, what would happen is you'd have to write for it, then you'd have to pay for it, and they'd have to send it to you. But now it's all there online. So it really starts with the individual. If you've had a parent or two who were interested in the news business and they introduced you to it as you're growing up, that helps. But if anybody wants to be aware of what's going on, it starts with you, and you have to figure out how to find the time to watch it. It's fantastic if you get interested.
Yeah, most definitely. Kind of backtracking, talking back about Washington politics, what stories are you seeing in general that you think aren't being reported as much that they should be right now?
All of my life, since I've thought about Washington and been here, I've felt the number one story should be money. Because that's what this town's all about, money. And people come here from all over the United States to get some. I always laugh when I see a whole group of people walking across the Senate grounds or the House grounds. I just chuckle because I know what they're after. They're after that grant they want to build something in their community. And we've been extremely irresponsible as a country. We're up to $33.7 or $8 trillion in debt. And the Congress of the United States pays almost no attention to this whatsoever. And the media knows that people get bored by it. But if I were your age, I'd be worried, because you're going to pay more for Social Security, or you're going to get it later. You're going to pay more for Medicare, Medicaid, whatever it is. And it's all because of the irresponsibility of people my age who didn't care how much they spent. They just threw the money at the public, knowing that they could buy votes. And they did. And they will, until somebody realizes that we're paying $600-700 billion a year for interest alone in the budget.
Jumping into the polarization of media, there are networks like CNN and Fox that are infamously partisan. What is your take on these news organizations?
You know, I waffle on this because I grew up where we thought journalism was balanced. It really never was, but we thought that, we were told that all the time by people in the media, that it's fair, balanced, and objective. I can remember an old anchor on NBC David Brinkley, who was very popular, would say that all the time. Well, it never was fair, balanced, and objective, because people in the business have a bias, and it may only be a bias of choice of what they cover. I think the best thing you can do for yourself is just study it, learn how it operates, and watch what you want to watch, and don't watch what you don't want to watch. But don't listen to media people tell you that they're fair, balanced, and objective. And they still try to do it. And even those that are on, I mean, what is Fox's motto? We report, you decide, but there's another one. They call it, I think, fair, balanced, and objective, something like that. Fair and balanced. No, fair and balanced was there. They don't use it anymore, but they used to use it all the time. And you just chuckle. Okay, fine. But it is first of all, it doesn't say anywhere in the Constitution or in the Bill of Rights that you have to be balanced. And this balance thing started with the media itself. And when we came along, we wanted to be balanced. We've tried hard to be balanced. We never give our views on any politician. But I have to tell you, the most successful media organization in the United States today is Fox News. And they have the biggest audience, and they make the most money. So go figure.
Do you think it's because of how they choose to report with their pretty stuck opinions and kind of the method of covering different events? What do you think that popularity is caused by?
Oh, I think it's caused by most people in the television medium and in the newspaper business. The big newspapers that have been successful are left of center. And there's a lot of anger in the conservative community about that. So when Fox came along, people said, by golly, that's my network. I'm going to go there. I feel like I'm at home. I don't have to listen to that crap on the other side. And that's the way that people feel strongly about it. So the good news about today is, if you hate Fox, don't watch it. If you hate CNN, don't watch it. Don't punish yourself. But if you really want to know what each side thinks, watch them both. That's what I do. I watch all of them every day. I watch News Nation, which you probably don't even know about. I watch everything from Newsmax to Fox News to CNN to MSNBC. It's a smorgasbord of choice today. And I know that all those networks make a habit of cutting the others, but that creates clicks for them. It creates an audience, and it works.
And so with all the news channels that you watch with the diverse opinions and stuff, how are you feeling that these different media outlets are covering the upcoming election, and specifically maybe the Republican national debates or just anything that's going on related to 2024?
You could answer this question yourself. They're covering it one way, and they will continue to cover it one way. You want to guess? You want to guess what that one way is? John?
Their way.
That's true. No, what I'm really getting at is polls. They constantly, every day, report all these polls. It's a poll race. It's been a poll race for a year. And not until the public votes coming up in January in the primaries, and that's going to be a screwy primary because Mr. Biden isn't even participating in Iowa and New Hampshire, and Donald Trump hasn't debated. So these early primaries aren't going to mean as much as they might have in the past, and that's fine. But not until people vote will we really know what's going on. And there will be a third party. There already are third-party candidates, but there's going to be a bigger name run, in my opinion. And that's going to make a difference. It always does, even though people say third parties never win. Well, they make a difference. They still point in 2000 to Ralph Nader's votes in Florida, saying that if it hadn't been for Ralph Nader, Al Gore would have won. But this is campaigning. I mean, this is media coverage of campaigns by polls.
So our current partisan system within the government stays pretty busy fighting each other while staying aligned with their own bases. And we've dealt with some pretty close government shutdowns recently. Do you have hope that things will change at any point?
Not really. No. You know what will change it? If you go back in history, back in the 30s. I think it was the election of 36, 1936, when FDR won big. If you go back, it's amazing. I don't know what the exact number is. I think the Democrats in the Senate had 75 and the Republicans had 18 or something like that. He could almost, not completely, but he could almost do whatever he wanted. The Southern Democrats often didn't vote with him, so it gets more and more complicated. But as long as there's this incredible 2 or 3 vote margin in the House and the Senate, you're going to have this thing going on forever. And someday, as things begin to break down financially, and it's happening in different locales around the country, they're going to have to do something, and they're going to have to bite the bullet and come up with some kind of a compromise. But they're not going to do it until they're forced to.
So with the recent displays of infighting within the Republican Party, do you think that this party is going to continue to survive? We have this far-right conservatives and then kind of the more moderate right-leaning Republicans. What do you think this is going to lead to for the future?
Not until Donald Trump is gone will we know. It's going to be one of the more fascinating years in politics because Donald Trump has, depending on who you listen to, he's got 4 or 5 trials coming up next year, including the one that starts here on March the 4th in the District of Columbia. And that trial is going to matter. It's going to be daily, and Donald Trump will have to sit in the court. He doesn't have a choice. He has to be there. Up in New York, the trial he's going through, he can come and go when he wants. But once he hits the district court, about 3 blocks from here, he'll be in the chair every day in that courtroom, and that's going to make a difference because he's got a very tough judge, a woman named Tanya Chutkan, and she's already made it perfectly clear she's going to stay on schedule and be tough. And he said a lot of nasty things about her, but that's the way he goes in campaigning. But that's going to start to matter, and we aren't going to know how much until it starts to happen.
So changing the topic a little bit, C-SPAN has fought to get cameras in Congress and other parts of the government for their entire existence. Why is there resistance, and how do you guys handle it?
I don't know that we handle it very well because the one thing about politicians, and for that matter, judges, and there's an exception to this, they act like they want transparency. They don't. They don't want transparency. They're forced to get transparency. Frankly, if it wasn't for the media, they wouldn't give us transparency at all. And if it wasn't for the competition among parties, they wouldn't give us transparency. But the way we've dealt with it is just keep asking. We've made a little bit of headway at the Supreme Court, only in the sense that when we started, and this sounds complicated, but when we started, you could not listen to the audio version of the Supreme Court arguments. And there were only 80, 90 a year. They're now almost down to 60. They last about an hour, sometimes longer. But you had to wait until 6 months after the end of their term, in usually June, July, before you could get access to the tape. Now we get them live. So that's some progress. The House started television in 1979. The Senate didn't start for 7 years. And we asked and asked and asked. We took polls of the Senate, and finally one senator who everybody thought would never be interested in television, a man named Bob Byrd from West Virginia, saw a poll that we did and called me over to his office and said, "Is this poll accurate that shows more people for it than against it?" And I said, "Yeah, I mean, we asked the senators, this is what they told us." And he said, "Well, I'm going to get television in the Senate." That's like he'd been opposing it himself. They don't want it. They don't want you to be able to see everything they do because they're much happier when they control the message. And that's true at the White House. I can go on about this for hours and hours and hours on end, and it will be as boring as you can imagine, but you just have to keep asking and asking and asking. And someday they will open up as much as they possibly can because of the pressure on them. And also, the public is so lackadaisical about a lot of this stuff. They know that. And the politicians know that the public out there doesn't really care that much about it. They're just trying to live their lives. And so the public doesn't put pressure on them. So it's been going on this way from the beginning. I mean, give you an example. When the Capitol moved to Philadelphia, the Senate didn't allow anybody outside it didn't allow anybody in the chamber. It was closed to outsiders. And that's how far we've come.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lamb, for taking the time to answer our questions today. Your insights are so incredibly invaluable. That is what we have for this week of Watching Washington. Stay tuned for next week's show.